Welcome back. 9:48 now on your Sunday morning. It was another roller coaster week in Washington, from the first indictments handed down in the Russia investigation to the Republican rollout of the tax plan. There's a lot at stake on both sides of the aisle. But of course, the biggest news is right here in Florida. Let's bring our political panel and dive right in with Democratic political analyst Shannon Love and Republican political analyst Jonathan Torres. Thank you both for coming in this morning.
Thanks for having us.
So we'll start right at the top here with the allegations against Jack Latvala. You guys have spent time in the Capitol. First of all, how much does this affect his candidacy for governor and possibly his career? We'll start with you, Jonathan.
Well, I think that, of course, is going to be maybe the biggest fallout from all of this because it's still very speculative, but that factors in heavily into a governor's race. Where I think he might be okay is in retaining his seat. I don't think that is as much at stake here. He's incredibly well respected in the legislature. As he has said himself, he's been in the legislature for almost 2 decades and in a very competitive county and district. And so I think if there was I'd say more to this, I think it would have come out a long time ago, and we wouldn't be seeing it in the midst of him jumping into a very heavily contested governor's race, because I think we'll see probably 1 or 2 more candidates jump in early next year.
When you say more to this, you think then that it is possibly a timing issue, that this could be something to scupper the candidacy?
Yeah, again,
absolutely.
Yeah, something like this wouldn't come out, again, for someone who's been in politics for 2 decades. I think this is something that would have come out before. You would have seen other opponents try to push out this narrative. For this to all of a sudden just come about seems very timed, very manipulated, and certainly when he was seemingly starting to get some grassroots momentum.
Shannon?
Well, I think it's, and I preface with, I've known the Representative Latvala and Chris Liv and the senator for nearly 7 years now. And so in my experience, as a woman, I definitely encourage women to come forward. The timing is definitely, the momentum is very prevalent right now with women's issues and things like that. But I do think that, we have to see where this plays out. I mean, we don't want to, obviously, as you said earlier, everyone is innocent until proven guilty. And I definitely think we need to address some of the larger cultural issues in Tallahassee. We had Representative Matt Gaetz saying that while he was in Tallahassee, he observed this, meaning that we had a sitting U.S. representative who was at the time complicit in basically observing these things and not taking action. And I think that that's something we need to be talking more about, is the culture in Tallahassee. And, if these allegations may be the tip of an iceberg for something larger in Tallahassee, which I think we need to be discussing. What
is your experience there as a woman, or that you've heard from other colleagues?
So when this came out, I can tell you that from my experience, knowing the representative, Senator Latvala's son, and knowing, the senator, I've never encountered anything like that. I would be surprised. He's been nothing but professional and supportive to several women who I've known. So I'm surprised to hear that on a personal level. I don't want to ever undercut a woman. I think everyone should have the right to come forward. I haven't heard anything like that from from other women.
No, absolutely, and that's why everyone is innocent until proven guilty. We'll have to see how this turns out. Let's move on now to the first indictments from Mueller's investigation into the ties to Russia. How much does this hurt President Trump? We'll start with you, Shannon.
Oh, I think that, we've been discussing, whether he colluded with Russia since, I think we went on in April, and
this has been an incredibly long investigation. We've been talking about it for some time.
So I think that, we've seen it more and more, and at this point, we've always had accusations, and, allegations. We've had questions about Jeff Sessions. We've had questions. I think the timing hurts him a lot, especially when we're moving into an investigation with his former campaign manager. I think we're having questions when we're looking at it about, he went on record of saying, he wouldn't have appointed Jeff Sessions if he knew that he recused himself. I think there's a really big question there.
Well, the truth of the matter is that they haven't been able to connect the dots to Trump. And we're talking about the FBI. We're talking about a government agency which specializes in exactly this type of investigation. And here we are almost a year later, and they haven't been able to connect the dots back to the president. And the truth of the matter is that right now, I think any speculation that you could try to put on President Trump, you could easily pin on Hillary Clinton and the Democrats as well, because, of course, there are some ties there in terms of a dossier. and exactly who has those ties back to Russia. You know, we're even talking about, at least at the grassroots level, we're talking about the ties back to the uranium deal during the Obama administration. And so I don't think it's going to hurt him at all. Just like a lot of the controversy that we saw during the campaign, he seems to have a Teflon-like ability about him to be able to get past a lot of these.
He certainly does seem to have that. Shannon, you want to respond?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think that when we talk about the dossier, we talk about things called opposition research, which is really common in campaigns. So I think where there's a bigger concern is, you know, there's a question of, you know, Manafort was owed money to the Ukraine. There was a question about the fact that he wasn't being paid by the Trump, you know, campaign. There are a lot of questions that are just starting to surface, and President Trump seems to be really opposed to them looking into it.
Well, and all of that was years prior to the Trump campaign.
That's true. Politics is a dirty business. That's why we're here to help you sort through it, folks. All right, we'll be right back.